Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Joined tonight by Josh Bennett. Brother, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a week, a month, a season, a year. Tired.
All since Friday.
All since Friday.
Man, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy 48 hours. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no, it's hard to look away from the phone. Even when the phone's not blowing up, it's blowing up, or you can't stop scrolling and looking, and like we're trying to be serious here, and people are making fun of things and making light of news and making jokes and memes and all that stuff. It's just fun. It's just fun. Michigan fans coming out saying Utah fans is the best fan base they've met on Twitter. Like that's cool, you know.
How about that? Huh? How about that? You know? Yeah. The Crips and the Bloods coming together, raising the flags in unity, right? You know?
Right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun to follow everything and just watch everything unfold, and it might be staring a little bit of chaos. That might be like about to hit that head on right now, and we'll talk about that here soon. But I don't know, the drama is what also makes this stuff fun, right?
Dude, I tell you, man, the month of December is a freaking doozy. You know, my job's, I love my job. It's best job I've ever had. You know, it's that type of thing. I don't need two phones all year long, but I wish I could like rent a phone for a month because December is insane, dude. It's like the last 48 hours. It's been nonstop. I went to lunch today with a friend, and I felt bad because it was literally me, checking out for minutes at a time, coming back to a conversation we were having, to a topic we were talking about, and trying to pick up after a couple minutes. It's just, I feel bad. And, Kendra obviously being ignored. Shout out to the wife. She's the best for allowing me to do this stuff and all that. But it's been crazy the last 48 hours. It's been a lot. And I'm glad that the fan base is having a good time with the Michigan fan base. It's weird because, Kyle Whittingham leaving Utah to go to Michigan, and, now he's starting to take your coaches, take your players. It's a little weird, like, come on. But I get it. It's cool too, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot there. There's a lot of layers to this whole friendship now, but that's what it is in college football.
Yeah, no, it's whatever it is, it's fun, and that's the most important thing, is you're having fun, especially when you're staring down the week that might be ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
I think the one thing that you hope for at the end of everything is that Utah football stays Utah football, and Morgan Scalley's here. If you heard Weddle talk in the space to the fan base, it felt like a public address to the fan base. If you haven't heard that, you must listen.
Yes.
1 hour.
You hosted. We recorded a podcast episode Friday afternoon, and I hope people appreciated that. But you hosted a Twitter space Friday night, and Eric Weddle hopped in and basically took the mic for an hour, and it was incredible. It was really, really insightful stuff.
Yeah, and basically, like, in a nutshell, because we've got an hour or whatever's worth of stuff to talk about tonight, so we don't want to rehash everything that was said there, but in a nutshell, he basically said there's no better guy for this than Morgan Scalley, and basically said that whatever happens is going to happen. The guys that want to be there are going to be there. As far as coaches, the players that want to be there are going to be there, and everything's going to be all right. So, it's the most important thing in all of this is to have fun. So like, it's good that people are laughing and making friends with Michigan fans that are going to enjoy the coach that you've had for 20 years and change. And but have fun.
I think the fan base, like, I think everybody's kind of cool with, talking about Kyle Whittingham and all that. It's all the other coaches that I think make this whole dynamic. It adds the layers to this dynamic, to this new friendship. And look, it's cool to see. And I'm not trying to knock people for making buddies online with other fan bases. Like, enjoy it. This is fun, and eventually we'll get past this transition. But here we are. It's Sunday night. Kyle Whittingham has officially been the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines for 2 days now. After he was officially named the head coach Friday, he's had his introductory press conference, which happened in Orlando earlier this morning. He shared some interesting things, and we don't necessarily need to dive into that per se, but I think, we need to sort of set the stage, right, for what's coming, what's on the horizon. And I think a lot of Utah fans know what's coming. I feel like, people have a grasp of what's happening. But in the press conference, Kyle Whittingham talked about, a number of things. He talked about, how he was treated fairly on the last couple weeks, and that it was his decision to step down. There's been a lot of talk around what transpired this month between Utah and Kyle Whittingham. And, Kyle, maybe he's not telling the whole truth there. Maybe he is telling the truth. Maybe he did resign of his own volition, a la Andy Ludwig of 2024. But he also shared in his press conference, what he envisions his coaching staff to be at Michigan. And he shared the fact that, it's going to be guys that he's familiar with, guys that he knows and has a track record with, that he trusts to instill his program. And that's going to likely look like 7 or 8 coaches that come from Utah, BYU, from his, coaching tree, guys that he knows. And it's going to include a handful of holdovers from the Michigan staff. So, with that in mind, Bennett, just what do you make of where we're currently at, and how do we need to prepare for what's coming?
No. So today you saw, recording this on a Sunday night, you saw the Jay Hill news go through. So he's got his defensive coordinator. He needs an offensive coordinator next. Jason Beck, being a Whittingham guy, Whittingham hire, the opportunity to coach at Michigan. A lot of things make sense for Jason Beck to follow Kyle to Michigan. So you do expect that to happen. And then from there, it would be, what assistance on the offensive side of the ball. Jim Harding has been rocking with Kyle Whittingham for a really long time. So you got to imagine that there'd be some interest there, and that would make total sense if Kyle took, Jim Harding. At running back, coach Tony Alford, they retained him. That's a legacy guy, a guy that Kyle's got a little bit of familiar with the Alford name, and so keep him there. So now you have Coach Atuaya at Utah. He doesn't have a spot over at Michigan, so that's somebody that you at least could talk about retaining. And wide receiver Mike Simon, got to imagine that's one of Beck's guys. He's going to go. Tight end coach Freddie Whittingham, got to imagine he's going to go with Kyle for obvious reasons there. On the defensive side of the ball, again, they got Jay Hill, and then it's what's he going to do at D line? Lewis Powell, you saw his name emerge in some reports, and then there's some guys that they already have there that hold retain on the defensive side of things, and then I don't know, maybe he brings like a strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah.
So something along those lines. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to chop this up, but Utah is going to really feel this personnel wise on the offensive side of things. So
Yeah.
I know it's long winded, but the offensive side of things is where Utah is going to be the most exposed.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so we recorded Friday. I made the prediction, there that it was going to be Jason Beck and Jay Hill as the coordinators to follow Whittingham, and everything up to this point Sunday night still point to that. We haven't seen the official announcement from Michigan that either have been officially hired, but everything still points to that being the case. I would anticipate, that we probably see an announcement for coaches after the bowl game. So things will be finalized, between now and then, I assume, but everything still points to that. Now, when it comes to the position coaches, right? Offensively, yeah, Freddie Whittingham. Okay. Yep. He's going. Jim Harding, he is probably going, but I know that he has interest from a program currently in the college football playoff. So he's not necessarily a shoe-in to follow everybody to Michigan, but there is a chance there's a very strong chance that this is it for him, right? For Utah. He's probably, I would still put the odds in Michigan's favor for him to end up there, but there's a chance that he doesn't, because another program is making a really strong push for him. When it comes to Lewis Powell, I've actually heard some positive things for Utah, and this is the latest here. So, had you asked me Saturday or earlier this morning, I would have put it that Lou is probably on the way out, probably on his way to Michigan, that he's going to follow Witt and he's going to be the defensive line coach at Michigan. But over the last 18 hours or so, heard some positive things, and I think I would actually put it that Lou is now back at Utah next season, and I think that is huge. That's huge for Utah if you can hang on to Lewis Powell, because he is a heavy lifter on the recruiting trail. He's done so much for Utah on the recruiting trail in so many ways. He deserves to be, promoted in some sense, because he has done so much to recruit good talent, not just to his position, either. He recruits a lot of important pieces to the program. His recruiting connections really expand into California, into Utah, Nevada. He recruits his tail off, and even getting into the Pacific, ocean, into the Pacific Islands, getting into Australia. He has connections all over down there. So he's vital to Utah's recruiting. So that's a positive trend. But with that, I think it sounds like Whittingham may have pivoted to Luther Ellis now, and him being a guy that he wants to bring in. And considering, that Luther Ellis spent his NFL career with the Detroit Lions, the bulk of his career, that's a marriage that makes a lot of sense as well. When it comes to Jay Hill, it's been interesting, because I would think that Jay would want to bring, a position coach or two with him from BYU. But at this point, it sounds like it's going to be Gary Anderson, who's served as an analyst down at BYU. It sounds like it's just going to be him following Jay Hill to Michigan, which is interesting. And so that's sort of the how it currently looks for Utah, and BYU and Michigan with the coaching staff. So we're looking at Jason Beck, Jay Hill, potentially Micah Simon. It makes sense that Beck would want to bring him, but Michigan has had Coy Detmer, who's been an analyst and a QB assistant there. He's going. Micah Simon. Michigan has had a good receiver coach there in Ron Bellamy, who's recruited some really big talent to that room. So, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out with the defense. Sounds like it's now trending towards Luther Ellis following Witt, and again Jay Hill and Gary Anderson all following suit. So that is what it currently looks like it's going to be for Whittingham at Michigan.
Man, just taking a bunch, both sides. A little from Utah, a little from BYU, and taking some of that Utah football family tree out to the Midwest. We'll see. How comfortable he gets at home out there.
Yeah. So that sort of sets the stage for what could come after that, right? When you lose an offensive staff, when you lose that many coaches, there's potential ripple effects in terms of the players. And with the transfer portal opening here later this week, January 2nd, it certainly opens the door for a number of offensive players to hit the portal. And I think that is probably for Utah fans, probably where you need to set your expectations is the doors opening up, the portal opening up, and there being a number of guys hitting the portal. I think you can come to your own conclusions in terms of who is most likely to leave. We don't need to necessarily name specifics, but you can certainly understand that with the offensive staff going to Michigan, that they'll want to bring in some key pieces in terms of the players as well. And so, we'll see. But I would advise Utah fans to be prepared for, I don't want to say a mass exodus, but I think there will be a number of players that probably enter the portal.
Yeah, and while all of this is happening, just think of the offensive side of the ball last year, right? Needed to hit a total reset button on the coaching staff side of things on the offensive side, and also personnel, the players itself. So you never expected that to turn into a top 10 offense in the country. So like that bounce back, that turnaround, that can happen, and that can happen really quick. So don't get too discouraged. Like as you're seeing these guys fall off, like this could be a good thing in the long run. Maybe you don't have, Beck's 40 points per game, but maybe Scalley is able to find a guy that in year one is able to give him 30 points a game, which is really all Utah needs. That's always kind of been a magic number for Utah. It's like Utah scores 30 points a game, it's going to win 10 games a season. It's real simple math. So
So let's transition, right? So what does Morgan Scalley need to do? What is most important? What has to happen, right, as we get ready for what's to come? And obviously, look, we know that there's a bowl game this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. But we're talking big picture here. What is going to be the most important thing for Scalley to get done between now and by the time he's introduced January 6th as the head coach?
He needs to identify his leaders, and that's both on the coaching staff and also in the locker room and the players. For coaches, he needs to figure out who's going to be there, who's going to be that continuity, and then who does he need to bring in, and figure out who does he need to bring in and fast. Because when you get into the portal, you want to connect guys with their position coaches, with their coordinators. You want to be able to have the coordinators and the position guys picking players that fit what they're looking for and what they're trying to do. So the staff needs to be figured out quickly. And then also you just need to figure out, we've been talking about some of these coaches that are going to be leaving Utah. They have players that, look up to, respect, and, ride or die with them. So you're going to see some players go from Utah to Michigan or elsewhere. And with that, with the players headed out, it's going to open up new spots where but you need to find the guys that are going to be there, that are going to stick around, that are going to be able to be the leaders to help carry on in the next year. Sorry, I started to lose it for a second. I was trying to close that up, but yeah, that's the first thing is finding your leaders both within the coaching staff and within the locker room.
And I think that's a great point. And I think he has a good idea of what that's going to look like on the defensive side of the ball. It's a reason why I think, you know, Lewis Powell is probably going to stick around. I think he probably sees, you know, I think Morgan understands his value and what he means to the program. You know, Colton Swan, we've long speculated as being the guy to become the next defensive coordinator with Scalley taking over as head coach. You know, it seems like, and then obviously with Coach Shaw, you know that, you know, that friendship that Scalley has with Shaw, like there's a very tight bond there. And so you feel good about the leadership that he's going to have on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like he'll also have a good idea of the players and leadership on that side of the ball as well. You know, I think a guy like Jackson Benny is somebody that Scalley can really, you know, lean on at a time like this. I think Benny is a Utah kid through and through. I think he's committed to the program. You know, I think he is the next Morgan Scalley in a lot of ways. Talking about Jackson Benny, the way he talks about the program, the way he talks about Scalley, I think he's somebody that you know, Scalley can count on. And there's other guys as well. You know, there are going to be guys that step up in that defensive line, along the defensive line. So I think that's a great point, is identifying his leadership on the offensive side of the ball. You know, that's going to be a process because he's going to have to find staff. He's going to have to, you know, bring in players. And so that is going to be, you know, more of a long-term process. But the good thing here is he has a core of leaders that he can build with on the defensive side of the ball. Like we talked about with Whittingham, you know, talking about needing, you know, guys that he trusts. Scalley also is going to have that opportunity to bring in his guys, right? His coaches that he can set the foundation of his program with, and guys that he can build with. And so I'm excited to see who that turns out to be, what coaches he brings in. And so that is going to be an important process. And I think, you know, it starts with obviously retaining, you know, the coaches on staff, the defensive coaches. Obviously, I think we would love to see as many offensive coaches stick around as possible to keep that continuity potentially. But also, you know, again, maybe Morgan doesn't want that. Maybe he wants a fresh start offensively. Maybe he wants to bring in somebody that fits a vision of his offense and what he wants that to look like. You know, I think there's a lot to learn of what Scalley wants this program to be. And, you know, as much as we've talked about Jason Beck and his importance coming back, you know, we need to also give room for Morgan again to find a coordinator maybe that again fits his vision of what he wants. So we'll see. And that is an ongoing process. You know, I've been told, you know, according to sources, plenty of conversations have been happening. You know, I think, I don't know. Did we talk about Brian Johnson? Have we talked about, you know, Aaron Roderick? Have we talked about Jonathan Smith? Did we mention those guys on Friday? I don't think we did.
Nope, not yet.
But those are three guys. Those are three guys that early on have been mentioned as potential candidates. I shouldn't say potential candidates, but will be candidates and either have or will have conversations with Morgan Scalley here in the very near future. So this is going to be the process, right? Identifying his leadership, retaining the staff, retaining the players, and then filling out the rest of his staff to establish the foundation of his program.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that Weddle harped on, was like, that's one of the most important things is getting coaches and developing coaches. And why is that so important? Well, coaches develop a bunch of players, right? If you put all your time and your money into a player, they come and go, but the coaches, they bring all of the players that do the coming and going. So
yeah,
it'll be fun to watch you Scalley build that out.
So speaking of all of this, right? We mentioned, there is a bowl game this week. Utah will be playing a football game this week. We haven't talked a lot about it, but Utah is going to be playing in the Las Vegas Bowl. They're already down there, and have been practicing and putting in the final prep for Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl. We're going to be down there. We're going to be getting down there tomorrow to embrace the Las Vegas activities between now and Wednesday, and we'll see what that brings with the football program as well. But this is a unique opportunity. It was a couple weeks ago where we were viewing this game as Kyle Whittingham's last game at the helm of Utah football, and now this is the first game of a new era under Morgan Scalley and a first look at what he is going to be as a head coach. And I think this is super valuable for him. I think this is a great opportunity for him to get a feel for what it's like under the head coach headset. This is a big deal. So I think this is a big opportunity. What do you make of this upcoming game and what it means for Scalley, what it means for the program, what it means for the fan base?
Yeah, no, it's hard to find much for juice out of a Vegas Bowl with a 10-win season, right? But when you're looking at it and you're approaching it as it is, it's going to be Kyle's last game ever. Gotta go. Gotta pay respect to the GOAT. Got to be at his last game ever. And then it's like, it's his last game at Utah. And it's like, okay, there's still some of that like factor there. And then it's like, he's not even coaching. It's going to be Morgan's first game. So there's intrigue either which way. And you can argue that like Morgan's first game is more, there's even more intrigue there just to see what that new era looks like, just to get that. Nobody can really picture anybody other than Kyle Whittingham under the headset on the sidelines. And now you get that like a little bit sooner with Morgan Scalley, and it'll just be interesting to see. So it gives a little bit of juice to a bowl game that is happening in the middle of the craziest part of the football season with all the transfer portal bowl game opt-outs, the NFL draft declaration, coaching carousels, just everything crazy is going on during the month of December. It takes away from the bowl game where you forget almost you even have a bowl game in the first place. So it'll be interesting to see how Scalley's able to get the players to lock in and focus in a place like Vegas where there's a lot of distractions, and during a time where there's a lot of distractions internally as is, and it's never easy to win a football game. So see if Scalley can't start off 1-0.
Yeah, and Morgan Scalley, interacted with the media. What was it, Saturday night? I think he met with the media down there in Las Vegas, answered a few questions, either Friday or Saturday. I can't remember, but he talked about this is an opportunity to get to 11 wins, and that would be the fourth time only in program history of the team getting to 11 wins. For this group, there haven't been a lot of opt-outs. We know that Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano, and Logan Fano have opted out, but it sounds like everybody else is going to be suited up and ready to go, and that includes guys like Devin Dampier, Bird Ficklin. It's going to include the bulk of the rest of the squad, and so this is a unique opportunity to get that 11th win and what it means for the program in kind of the big picture view, right? That's nice. That's a great thing to have. 11 wins going into an off season, obviously an off season of transition, but I think it's also an opportunity, for him to get a feel for what it's like to be the voice of authority, right? To get a feel for the responsibilities of head coach. He's no longer just over the defense. He's now responsible for the decisions on offense. And I think to get a feel for that in a game that is still, meaningless, I think it's a great practice run. So, for him, this is a great way to sort of set a tone for his tenure It's a great way to cap a season, getting a bowl win, close to home. There will probably be a good amount of fans in attendance that'll represent Utah and all of that. It'll be a good way to send this group off. I think this group of players deserves a lot of credit for what they accomplished this year, for riding the ship. Kyle Whittingham is taking all the credit for it, but the players did a lot this season. Devin Dampier did a lot to right this ship, to turn the vibes around. The program was in a bad place last year. It was in a bad place. The vibes were down. It was ugly. And Dev came in and he just sort of infused the offense with confidence again. And this group bought in. They had fun all season long. And I think there's a real camaraderie and a real motivation within this group to finish it the right way. And that's a testament to their own leadership. So, I think that's a big deal. And for Morgan Scalley to be the guy to sort of put that punctuation mark on this season, I think is a great way to start his career. So, this is, again, it's a big opportunity for him to get a feel for the job. It's a great way to finish the season for the players and for the fans. It's an opportunity to appreciate what Utah accomplished this year, to get a look at what the future could look like, at least at certain spots, and to get a look at some young players that could be, the future of the program. So, there's a lot to this game. Beyond this just being a Las Vegas Bowl against a 7-5 Nebraska. There's a lot of value here to take away from it still. And I think that is kind of a unique dynamic to this bowl game now, is it's not just, a send-off to a living legend, which, now sort of like, it doesn't pain me to say that, now, but like, when you like get a pinch or a twitch where like your butt cheeks just kind of clench together where like, ooh, like it's just kind of uncomfortable. Like with what's transpired the last 48 hours, like saying Kyle's a living legend. Yeah, I get that, that little, that just that uncomfortable little like pinch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is crazy because when
Yeah.
it went down, when he stepped down and I did the live thing, I'm breaking down, I'm getting emotional, but like this is what he's done, man. This is what he's done to us,
Man, oh man. And
how quickly the tables turn, man.
yeah, no. There's some people that are out there saying some crazy things about him. So I'll mind my business. That's for damn sure.
Kyle's still a living legend. He's going to be great at Michigan, blah, blah, blah. But dude, this is Morgan Scalley's program now. This is Scalley's team. This is his era. I'm excited for it, dude.
Very excited for it. Very much can get behind the thought that, Utah football is still going to be Utah football, and there'll be some turbulence in the offseason. There was turbulence in the offseason last year. And you saw Utah turn around and go from a 5-win season to a 10-win season. And that's, that's what you come to expect. You expect Utah football to win a lot of football games, and Scalley's gonna be that guy. You got to believe that until he gives you a reason not to.
You mentioned something there, right? Utah football is Utah football, right? I'd be curious with Scalley taking over. Is this like when he comes to players and he's sharing his message of what his program is going to be? Is it like more or less like nothing changes, like this is still Utah football, or does it need to be like, no, this is a new era, a new standard, this is my program, right? Like what does it need to be?
Yeah, like I think it's at its core, Utah football is bigger than Scalley, bigger than Kyle, bigger than Urban, bigger than Ron, so forth, so on. Like at its core, Utah's football is its own thing, and especially when you look at the transition from Kyle to Morgan, like just in that, like it's more of an evolution, right? You hope that Morgan takes the good that he learned from Kyle and the stuff that he didn't necessarily agree with or saw differently, you hope that he puts his own spin on it and enhances and it evolves and, continues that evolution of Utah football.
I think that's a great way to put it, right? Ron McBride sort of instilled the Mafu mantra, right? The mental toughness, aggressiveness, fanatical effort, unity. That's that Mafu, mentality, right? That's what he brought to the program. That's what he established under his tenure. Kyle took that, ran with it. He always preached, right? Toughness, physicality, never die attitude. And I'm excited to see what sort of twist he puts on that. Clearly, right, Utah football, it's about physicality. It's about toughness. That is what this state is about. That blue collar, like go to work, no nonsense. It's not flashy. Like we just go to work. We are about our business. I think that is what Utah football is. But Morgan Scalley is going to add his own twist to it. So I'm interested to see what that looks like, right? He talks a lot about his relentless, smart, nasty ball hawks. That's his mantra on the defensive side of the ball. Can you be ball hawks on offense? I don't know that it necessarily fits perfectly. It's not horrible, right? But maybe he has to tweak something a little bit. But that's been his message to his defense is, relentless, smart, nasty ball hawks. RSNB, that's his culture. I think he's going to have to tweak it to include the offense now.
Yeah, I'm not quick enough with it to
I'm not either.
So
ballers, relentless, smart, nasty ballers. There we go. That was easy, dude. We just had to think.
Give ourselves more credit,
One thing that this is a real sort of big picture type of question topic. Obviously the question of why Utah made this change. And a lot of that has centered around Kyle and his age and where he's been at and what he sort of set the table for this to happen the way that it did by saying he didn't want to coach past 65, having a head coach in waiting picked, all that sort of stuff. But more than that, there's obviously Morgan Scalley and the dynamic that he brings to this conversation that I don't think we've necessarily hit on the way that we need to. I think Utah is at a point where they needed to make the change to go with somebody younger, not just because, Kyle is 66. Kyle clearly can still coach. He can clearly still win. Like age is not the factor here, but I think it's more than just the number and where Whit is at in his career, right? Whit is in full on CEO mode of operation, right? Delegating a lot of the daily grind, a lot of the responsibilities to others, right? And he is just sort of overseeing it all. And I think, he's earned that, right? With what he's done, the work that he put in the early years of his career, in the early years of his tenure. This is what a coach is supposed to become, is that CEO, because it speaks to the stability of the program. It speaks to the success under the coach. And that's what we've seen with Whittingham. So Whittingham being the CEO, right, works when resources aren't a problem. And for Michigan, it's not going to be a problem. He is not going to have to lift much a finger all too often to get resources coming into that program. That is just the nature of being a blue blood, right? When you have that sort of success. Utah has great support, but it does not have blue blood support. You need a coach that is going to be involved, that is going to do a lot more than just coach football, because a modern day head coach at a program like Utah, at a program like Arizona State, and a program even like BYU and Texas Tech, even those types of programs, you need a head coach that is able to wear a lot of different hats, is basically what I'm trying to get at. And Kyle is at a stage in his career where he is not going to wear those hats. Morgan Scalley is, right? Kyle is the product of a lot of a lot of time, a lot of effort put into the daily grind. Utah needs a coach that is able and willing to put in that time and that effort all over again. And that is, above all else, what I'm most excited for with Scalley taking over, to see what that actually means and what that actually translates to for the program. I think Scalley, being who he is, he's a personable character. He's organized. He's, energetic. He puts in all the time in the world to recruiting. Like, he's going to make a massive difference in terms of the workflow, the effort, the commitment, all of that sort of stuff. That is what I'm most excited about for Utah. And that is why I think, above all else, Utah had to make the move, because in this NIL era, that is what you need at a program like Utah, is a head coach that is willing to do all of that.
Yeah, no, you didn't really leave any meat on the bone for me there. You summed that up that's super well. But you're totally right. No. I just don't want to. I don't want to rehash. But no, Scalley absolutely has that fresh energy, that drive, that point to prove that I'm going to do things my way a little bit. Like, he has a lot of these factors that, it's going to be good, healthy. We talk about there's, sometimes change is good. Like, in this timing of this makes sense. And where, Utah had to side with the guy who's potentially going to be here for the next 20, 25 years, right? That's the hope with this kind of transition, as you move from, a 20-year coach to another 20-year coach. And you can't jeopardize that. And Scalley's already been coaching at Utah for 20 years, you know what I mean? So, but you can't jeopardize that. And that's ultimately where it got, and good for the University of Utah for, sticking with, Morgan is essentially what it boiled down to. If this program weren't bigger than any one person, that person might still be the guy today. So really excited for Morgan. He's been waiting his whole life, we can say, for this moment. And I don't know how you can possibly be more prepared for this. I don't know how you can possibly be more of a Utah man. And it's exciting to see that this all gets started now.
And that is the key. He is a Utah man through and through. He loves the University of Utah above everything else. Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of people questioning Morgan Scalley taking over as the head coach, because they figured he was a carbon copy of Kyle Whittingham, that he was just a good little soldier for Kyle and all of that. His loyalty was always to the University of Utah first, and did his best to that end, right? He stuck by Kyle Whittingham because Kyle gave him the opportunity to coach under him, all of that sort of stuff. He was loyal to Kyle to an extent, but the University of Utah, if we had to prioritize his loyalties, it was always to the university first. And his love for the program, I think, is what is going to motivate him each and every day, and what is going to fuel him to give his best. And so I think Morgan is the right guy to lead Utah into the future. And I think with everything that's transpired this month, right, with how this all went down, there are absolutely questions that have to be answered in terms of how Utah sent Kyle Whittingham off. But in the end, Utah has the right man at the helm to lead the program into the future, into the next era of whatever college football, whatever college athletics is headed towards. They've got the right guy in place in Morgan Scalley. And again, it gets back to his love for the program. I think that's going to drive a lot of positive. It's going to make just a huge difference for him, for the program. And I'm excited to see what it leads to. So Bennett, man, any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
No, it's just been a lot of fun to just follow all of this. As crazy as things are, it's addicting, and it's just trying to follow the roller coaster of all this stuff is insane. So,
you said it's addicting, and like the sick side, like the psycho side of me is just like, yes, dude, I live for this. I love the last 48 hours, what it's been, just texting, calling, like it's been so much fun, like in a sick psycho type of way. I'm a sicko and I hate it. I enjoy the rest of the year because it's not like this, but when we get to this point of the year, man, it's great. It's addicting, dude. I love it. So, appreciate all that you've done. Again, you hosted a great Twitter space Friday night. I know that you have it recorded. If you haven't listened to it, please go find it, listen to it. It's a great listen. Eric Weddle, again, went on for about an hour, sharing a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions. There were a lot of great thoughts and responses from people tuning in as well. It was just a great thing. So I hope everybody listened to that. Man, a lot more to come. We're going to be in Vegas tomorrow. We're both going to be getting down there tomorrow. We'll probably record something while we're down there, gambling away probably, which will be fun. So looking forward to what's to come. We will do a genuine football preview of Utah versus Nebraska. I think we owe it to the fans to get back to a little X's and O's conversation. I think people are starting to get that itch again for football, for Utah football. We need to give them the preview that they deserve. So we'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday. I don't know what it's going to be. We are going to be traveling, so we'll see how that plays out. But Bennett, you've been great, dude. Appreciate all the listeners. For myself, for Bennett, this is a Utah Blockcast signing off.